Wow, that introduction on there reminded me of my school bell at school.
They don't hear that.
They don't hear it, but so 3, 2, 1 is beep, beep, beep.
Countdown for the camera.
Yep, countdown for the camera. So,
Hey,
all right, well,
we're back.
We're back. And we're giving you a rundown since we last left off.
I think it's been like 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
I think so.
Okay, seems like it's been longer than that, but could be. I think last time we were in Glasgow.
Maybe close. Yeah, we were in Glasgow.
In Glasgow. I don't know if we mentioned in Glasgow, but we met some cool people. Brendan and Sophia from the Blue Nose Bus. They're Canadian A, and they are traveling a lot like we are, except for they both have jobs.
They're also really young, and what they did is they renovated a school bus, and so I think they're on Instagram as at Blue Nose Bus, but if you want to see the inside of what somebody else did, that was really cool. And then when we got to East Glacier, they happened to be there too, and so we're finding out that as you meet people, you tend to meet them again.
Sophia said that we're stuck with them because once you see them, then you're just kind of there with them all the time. So they think we're stuck, although they're in Australia right now at a wedding. So
we are not there.
We are not in Australia. We are currently in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So we got to back up a little bit to bring you up to date. Like I said, we were in Glasgow last time, Montana, and from there we went to Havre.
That's right. We were pronouncing it Havre, which I still am, but it was wrong.
It's spelled like Favre for all of you former Packer fans that grew up in my time era.
Former Packer fans?
Well, maybe current Packer fans. Packer fans from my era. How's that? Okay, so it's spelled like that, only with an H at the front. So, but they call it Havre, and we call it Havre. I don't know which one is right. It doesn't matter.
Oh, we know which one is right.
Nah, I'm still convinced we're right. So anyway, we were at Evergreen Campground in Havre, Montana. Havre was kind of a interesting town. It was really spread out, like over miles and miles. It seemed like of stuff, and so Evergreen Campground was a nice little campground. It had 20 sites or so.
Yeah, it was simple. Nothing else to do there. Not a great place to walk the dogs, but there was a little bit of a gravel driveway path we could. A little bit of green grass, which was the northeast portion of Montana at this time of year is a little less than appealing.
Dry. Although they did have green grass and they did have trees.
Oh yes, they were referred to as the shadiest campground in Montana.
In the area. I don't know. Something shady. They were shady. Kind of interesting that the owner, she was from
I think
Vernon
her
County.
parents.
Her parents were from Vernon County, and so she was out there, and we had a nice talk a little bit as we checked in.
So there were a few. There was a Walmart there. I always get excited to see Walmart now. And then there was a store we went shopping in called North 40, which was kind of like a big farm and fleet, sporting goods, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the dogs got to go in there, so that was kind of fun and exciting. Ethan's been wanting to take the dogs shopping forever. And they had a Ben Franklin there.
They had a Ben Franklin. That was Amanda's excitement.
And I think some of the stuff in that Ben Franklin has probably been in there since it probably opened in like the 70s or 80s.
Could be.
There was a lot of neat. I mean, it was a nice little. Actually, it's a pretty big store, but some of the stuff was very old. But otherwise, in Havre, we went out to that like recreation area.
Beaver Creek. We went to Beaver Creek Recreation area.
And the intention was to bike, and I thought that it was a nice paved path, and turns out it wasn't. And they said that the path, they meaning the pamphlet I was reading, was good and easy for kids. Well, it was pretty much a very straight up steep hill, and it wasn't a good place to ride bikes. It was also very narrow. So I decided right away I wasn't going to be able to capable of riding my bike, so I just walked the dogs. And the other kids, Annabelle, Owen, and Emmett, they tried to ride their bikes, but it was too much. It would have been very advanced for them.
It was really advanced.
It wasn't designed as a bike trail.
It wasn't designed as a bike trail. It was hard.
But Ethan I thought it was going to be paved, so we took all our bikes and such, and I was wrong. But anyways, those 3 kids and we just went around the lake and skipped rocks, they are becoming professional rock skippers. And then Jason and Ethan actually did go mountain biking on it, and it took them a long time for as short as a distance as it was.
It was a hard pathway.
Even Ethan said it was hard.
Yep.
And Ethan doesn't say too much is hard. So I don't think we did a little bit of shopping in Havre, and then out there on that trek.
Yeah, we went to the one walking path that was like 900 degrees, and yeah, that wasn't much either. So just not a lot. I mean, it's very dry out there, and just a lot of fields and a lot of open area, and not terribly exciting. So from Havre, we ended up going to St. Mary, KOA, and near. Well, St. Mary is the town and the entrance into Glacier Park, and there's several different entrances, and Glacier was very interesting. I'll start by that. On our way in, we were on the highway and we ran into construction. And it was, I don't know how many.
This isn't a highway. This is a mountain. He's talking. It's going up the mountain to get into Glacier, and then down the mountain to get into the Glacier area. And it was gravel, and it was not very wide. So if you met another vehicle, it was tight. Fortunately, they weren't actually working on it. All their construction equipment was there, even though it was the middle of the week. They weren't actually working on it, which made it a little bit better. But that was a tricky ride, and the cattle that were
the free-range cattle that were crossing the road, yeah, for sure.
Which I still don't understand how those farmers get them back, ever, how they track them down.
And on our way down, at the very end, we got about a mile left of our trek to get to our campground, and all of a sudden, Amanda radios, "Hey, there's white smoke coming from underneath the truck."
We got our walkies.
Yeah, we got our walkies.
Which is really a good idea, because sometimes we don't have cell service, but walkies are also instant. But yeah, we smelled it. Annabelle and I were like, "It smells like burning rubber." And then we looked and like, well, yeah, there's like white smoke coming from the truck.
So it ended up being a combination of two things, actually. The brakes on the truck got a little hot because the gain was actually set. I set it to what the guy that we bought the trailer from kind of set his truck at, and it worked pretty well in the flat. Now up in the mountains, the gain needed to be up higher, so now I've got the gain set up higher, so we did get a little bit of heat there. But we also found out when we came and got an oil change here in Idaho that there is a leak on one of the hoses, actually two of the hoses, for the coolant system, which when hot antifreeze it burns white. So there's a combination of those two things kind of coming together. That gave us a little bit of a scare, actually. We were pretty worried about truck for a little bit. But anyway, we got into St. Mary's KOA, and that was probably our kids' favorite so far.
It had a pool.
We had a pool and a hot tub.
Which is the first time we've had a pool since we left West Salem.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, we had a pool and a hot tub. We spent some time there.
That was probably my favorite dog park. There was nothing fancy about it, but it was just a big rectangle, and it had grass, and it was off a little ways from the campground, and it was decent. So there were other places to walk, because you could walk all around that campground and the paths down to the lake.
Yep. There was a lot of walking in that area. We did some hikes, although Glacier, I was there when I was like in second grade, and you were there like when you were in high school.
I was in college.
College, okay. And it's very different from, what we really truly remember. I was there with Ethan last October as well, but only for like 4 hours.
Okay, Glacier was what you were looking forward to. That we had planned the most.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I still love Glacier. I don't love the new setup for going to the Sun Road, which is where a lot of the hikes are, unless you're going to some of the other entrances. But even some of the other entrances, Mini Glacier was an area that we wanted to do a couple of hikes, actually. In the first time, I got everybody ready to go. Amanda and the dogs were going to stay. Owen even got in because we told him he had to. And we get to the entrance, and actually there was a sign probably 4 miles out from the entrance that said, high congestion area, parking lot is full, turn around now. Well, we decided we'd go in anyway. We got there, sure enough, the ranger said, "Hey, sorry, but we got to have you turn around. There's too much congestion. If you come, after 4 or before 8 o'clock in the morning, you might be able to get in." So that was kind of downheartening to me, because I wanted to take the kids on a hike. Ethan and I ended up going on that hike later, I think the next day. And it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I think everybody could have handled it. Akapuni Falls, if you are going to Glacier and looking for a short hike, but it's strenuous. It's not easy, but it's just absolutely gorgeous. We came into a big old waterfall with a pool at the bottom, and Ethan and I both got cold. It was great. So that was kind of disappointing in that you had to have reservations for going to the Sun Road. That's typically from, I believe, May until...
Well, you had reservations to get access
I did.
to it.
We did have...
The parking lot was full.
We had... Well, Mini Glacier wasn't on going to the Sun Road.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, anyway, access to some of the hikes was really limited at times, and so that was kind of disappointing. East Glacier, we also did another, or at Mini Glacier, I should say, we did another hike. Ethan and I did a 12-mile hike on Grinnell Glacier. That one was actually pretty awesome too. We saw a lot of neat things, some very beautiful lakes up in the mountains. We came across, of course, a glacier. We couldn't quite get to it. Well, we probably could have, but we didn't want to get our shoes wet because we still had 6 miles to go back. And then we ran into a big orange sheep out there too. So it was really a good hike, but just not what I was hoping for. I wanted to have everybody be able to go on these hikes, and dogs are not allowed on the trails. You can take them into the park in your car. They can be at the parking lots, those types of things, but can't take them.
Which we knew in advance.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a struggle because then we can't really do things all together because I'm not willing to leave them. I'm not comfortable leaving them for any period of time in the trailer, just not being there.
I think it would have been hard to leave them even if you were willing, because you didn't know for sure when you were going to be back necessarily.
They did go on the Going to the Sun Road with us, which I also remember as different. It was neat. I have to say I'm not like totally in awe or stunned with Glacier. I think Glacier is a park for people that are going to go do the hikes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the hikes are where everything's at. Going to the Sun Road, you didn't really see a lot.
Well,
I didn't see any of that driving.
I remember it being
tight.
very steep, which it is. It's very high. But I remember being like scared to death looking out the side as being the passenger looking down, thinking we were just going to fall off. But now, I don't know, the trees have grown up and it still was, but you couldn't see down. But I was on the inside this time as Jason drove, and I was next to the mountain, which I think is actually more terrifying because you didn't know if you were going to make it or scrape your car all up in the mountain, and I just thought everybody was going to run into everybody.
I did hit a tree branch that was sticking out from the mountain with the mirror.
Great.
Yep, so it was great. The highlight to that, probably that whole trip, was on once we got over the top, or wherever you want to call the middle of that road, and you start coming back down into West Glacier. We actually pulled off on a little pullout, and there were a couple of cars there, and we walked down and in. There was a stream bed there, and we were able to get right down to the stream. The dogs were there. It was right there. We're skipping rocks, having a good time. Ethan and I waded in a bunch. Actually, I think everybody waded in a bunch of different places there. So that was probably the highlight of that trip. We did make, I don't know if it was a mistake or a good thing. I'm not really sure how to analyze that still. But when we got into West Glacier, we decided that we were not going to turn back around and do the Going to the Sun Road on the way back because the line was really long.
This is when we were still staying on the east side. We went to the Going to the Sun Road, go up, down, and then you're in West Glacier. And we actually exited the park. And when we exited the park, there were tons of cars waiting to come in, waiting to get their passes checked, and waiting. We're like, we don't want to wait for that. And so we just drove back on what would be the normal road.
US 2.
And actually, the first part of that is gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Streams and trees and mountains. And then it got really it was just such a long day in the car. So long. We were all absolutely ready to be done and never to be in a car again. I think it probably was still faster. It just was boring.
Yeah.
But you got to see a bunch of buffalo.
I did see Matatonkas.
The other thing about Glacier, and then we need to go to the west side of Glacier, but is the fires right now make a lot of the mountains not visible. They're almost like phantom mountains, like sort of. If you look close, if you're far away, you can sort of see their outlines, but that was kind of weird.
Yeah,
Can you see yourself? Because I think you're a big shadow.
There. I might be a shadow, but that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, when we drove into the same areas, it was very, very hazy with that smoke, and then the wind picked up.
Oh yeah, East Glacier's in a valley, or where we stayed was. the wind was probably stronger than really most winds we've ever experienced instead of an extreme storm. And that's what I said. If this was at home, we would be like headed inside for a giant storm to be coming. We couldn't open you had to really push to open the camper door. Hair, everything. That was a lot of wind, like 40
mile an hour winds. Yeah. And it cleared off the haze because the next day after that wind picked up, it was beautiful blue skies, and you could see everything again.
But at East Glacier is probably one of my favorite memories so far. Just when all the kids were outside, and they were eating ice cream, coloring in the Curious George coloring book, had the telescope out looking at the moon, and they were just chilling. They were just being. But actually, they've gotten along for the most part pretty well so far.
So then we picked your parents up.
Yeah.
So
my parents joined us midway in Glacier. First night was when we were still in East Glacier, but then they got in quite late that night.
Yeah.
They came on the train, and then the next day we were traveling, so they just drove with us, and then they stayed in a hotel, and we stayed in a different campground. And so then they got to explore some of Glacier with us. Jason, Annabelle, Emmett took them back over Going to the Sun because they'd never been there before. And then we explored the little village area of West Glacier a little bit more. And
Apgar.
I liked Apgar. Yeah. And I liked the path from the visitor center into Apgar Village. I liked that walking path. And the dogs could go there, and the dogs could go to Lake McDonald, and there was ice cream there. And there was dairy-free ice cream there for Emmett, so that was good. But the golf, the mini golf.
Oh yeah, Going to the Sun Road mini golf. So it's a mini golf course right there in West Glacier Village before you even get into the park itself, when you're starting to go to the park. And so the kids and Marcia and I all went mini golfing there. It's expensive.
It was.
I won't say how much, but a lot. And at the very end, you get to be insulted by a bear. So that was one of the interesting pieces
the
to that.
The last hole had I think the kids will remember this forever. The last hole was a big cement, I wasn't there, big cement bear head.
Yep.
And then if you didn't get the correct hole that you were supposed to get for a free game or free ice cream or whatever it was, he insulted you bad.
Yeah. He didn't hold back.
I heard Emmett was crying.
He was
already tired, but the bear put him out.
He was tired, and he was ahead until probably the last 4 holes. He was winning out of everybody, and he ended up, I think he tied me and lost to Owen. So Owen got to win, which is good.
Today's Owen's birthday. So today is officially the first birthday we have celebrated on the road.
West Glacier. We went up Going to the Sun Road with Amanda's parents and 2 of the kids, and we stopped at the Logan Pass Visitor Center. Happened to just be there at the right time and pulled into a parking spot after maybe about 30 seconds, rather than other people we saw just circling. And again, that's part of you have to have a reservation that you can only get on recreation.gov, and it's a 3-day reservation. You can use the pass all 3 days if you want to, but you have to have that in order to get past those points on the Going to the Sun Road. Now there's other places to get into Glacier. Like I said, Many Glaciers one we went into. St. Mary's is Going to the Sun Road. West Glacier is Going to the Sun Road. East Glacier is not. Cut Bank is not. Two Medicine is not.
To get the pass, you just have to go online.
Yep, you have to go online. It's
supposedly the passes disappear pretty fast.
They do.
Jason was able to get it twice.
I got up 3 times. Yep. I got up early each morning that I needed to get it, and by the time I got in at 8:01 usually, because they go on sale at 8 o'clock, already the first couple hundred were gone. Then you refresh and you just keep trying until you finally get in. And I think at one point I was down to like 700 before I got in. 700 passes left. They give away 1,500 a day, so then they're all overlapping, of course. And it keeps track of you, so you can't reapply until your 3 days are up. So
you can use that pass. Once you have it, you can use it as many times as you want within your time frame.
Yep. So anyway, we went to Logan Pass and we hiked around there a little bit, went to the gift shop, that kind of thing. Saw some Colombian ground squirrels. They were intriguing little animals.
Saw a weird blue bird.
That was on our hike. So last year in October, when Ethan and I were out in Glacier for the 4 hours that we were probably there, Going to the Sun Road was already closed, so we couldn't do that, but we wanted to go up as far as we could, so we did. We went up as far as we could to where it was closed, and then we parked and we hiked this beautiful, beautiful hike.
This is getting worse. Let's pull this picnic table.
Okay, we're moving now. Where
You
are we?
can keep talking.
Back? Okay.
Yeah, there's
Anyway.
shade right here.
The shade right here. Oh, perfect. Yeah, just pull it. Just give it a pull. Give it a little pull-roo.
There, see?
There, look at that. Perfectly pulled. So anyway, so we went to Avalanche Lake and did that hike. It starts at the Trail of Cedars. You hike back on Trail of Cedars for a little bit, and then you come across Avalanche Lake, and it's just absolutely gorgeous when you get back there. The water was really low this time. Last time when Ethan and I went, it was really high, but it was still really a neat experience for the kids to see that. That's one of the things that, again, with Glacier, if you want to do the hikes, that's where you're going to see the stuff that you really want to see versus just driving through or just being on the outskirts of it. You really have to do the hikes to really get the cool stuff. Like I said, Apakuni Falls was a great hike. That one was only like 2 miles total.
Took you a long time, though.
It took us, well, we had to drive 20 miles or 20 minutes up into the park too. So it took about a half hour from our door to the trailhead. And that's the other thing, is it does just take time to get to anywhere you want to go. Avalanche Lake was about 4 miles round trip. That's just, again, it's a beautiful hike. That one's not very strenuous. I would say that most people could probably do that one. Akapuni Falls, you'd want to be in decent shape. That squirrel is checking you out.
No. No.
And Grinnell Glacier is not for the faint of heart. Although a lot of people were doing it, it was not strenuous, but it was just long. It was, like I said, 12 miles round trip by the time we got done. So you do have to go in to those places, and you really got to want to hike to be able to see some of the really neat things that are out there. It's very different when you get up there, and especially the 2 hikes where we just didn't have anybody near us. That was really neat.
I think if you're going to Glacier and you're going to hike, get your bear spray before you go, if you can, because you'll save probably about half. And then the other thing is, if you have limited time, I personally liked West Glacier a lot more than East Glacier as far as scenery.
I think as far as everything, I mean, scenery was probably better. Although I will say the hikes at Many Glacier were absolutely gorgeous.
And that's on the east side.
That's on the east side, yep. And there's actually a couple other places that were highly recommended. Two Medicine and Cut Bank were areas that were kind of the southeast. We didn't go there, but those were really recommended as well as being very beautiful. The thing about West Side is there are a ton of people. It's the touristy portion of it. There's a ton of people. Apgar Village is there. Lake McDonald Lodge is there. All really neat things. But there is more stuff to do too. Sure. Yeah. There's shops and things like that. Whereas in St. Mary there really wasn't, really any of that stuff. But I don't know. If you're gonna do the hikes, you can hike in from any of those places that I just mentioned. There's a few to the north as well. If you have your passport, you can actually. There's an adjoining national park from the Canadian side as well, and you can actually go into both those parks at the same day if you really wanted to.
I will also say where we stayed at Moose Creek RV Resort, what has been my favorite location, my favorite site, not necessarily the favorite campground. I'm starting to create lists of all my favorites, but it was our favorite site. It was probably about double wide at least compared to everybody else.
To a lot of them.
It was long, and they also off-centered people, so you didn't necessarily look right out your window and see another trailer. You looked out and saw a tree. And then we were on the path that didn't have anybody behind us, so that was all trees back there. It was just my favorite site so far.
We have found that they really pack you in campgrounds. I mean, it's tight in most of the places. I've kept an RV park journal that one of my colleagues gave to me before I left the school last year, and you look at, okay, was it average size, was it spacious, was it cramped, and most of them are saying cramped. Like, honestly, and maybe that's the average. Maybe I should be putting them down as average, but most of them are cramped. It just is. But Moose Creek was awesome, and I think, you look at that, we would stay there again.
Oh,
Moose Creek was really, it was nice, and they had shuffleboard.
Yes.
Amanda found a new favorite sport.
It's been ages since I played shuffleboard. I probably only played shuffleboard like one other time in my life. A lot of places where we are at lately, you can't have your own fires. They had a communal like area fire pit every night there. If that's your thing. They did have a dog park that was decent. You could walk around the campground. It was woodsy. The roads were paved, and then there were trees. So kind of a good best of both worlds for me.
Yeah.
We also drove into Kalispell one day to do some grocery shopping and found Target again. So that means there's ice cream that Emmett and I can eat again. But also the big thing is we went to Huckleberry Land for Huckleberry Pie. And huckleberries are promoted everywhere in these northern mountains. And that pie was almost $50. And that was at a savings of buying the whole pie. So it was like I'm like, I don't know if we just really got took on this pie, but after I started comparing prices everywhere else, they seemed to be like $7.50 to $9 for a slice of pie. So we did it for the experience. I did not have any pie, but for the most part, everybody liked the pie. Ethan actually even compared it probably to his second best favorite pie, to pumpkin. My mom really liked it.
It was really good. Yep.
So I guess it was worth the experience. And then my kids don't like, they had huckleberry taffy on one of our other vacations and huckleberry something else, and they didn't care for that, but they actually liked the real huckleberries sweetened in the pie. And then at a grocery store later, I found huckleberry pie filling, which I grabbed and maybe make a pie for like Thanksgiving, but I'm looking at it and it just all looks liquidy. It doesn't look like there's any berries in it or not, so I don't know how that's going to make a pie if it's just liquid, because it's not going to thicken up, but anyway.
Boy, we got a lot to talk about yet. Might have to do 2 videos. This one's already almost half hour long.
We're fine. We don't have that much more.
Okay. Well, we got so after we left West Glacier, we went to Libby, Montana, and stayed at Foxy's RV Resort, which really was 5 sites. I mean, there probably were a few more scattered around there,
they're making more across the way.
They're making more across the way, but there's only about 5 sites, and it was a restaurant / bar.
Well, I don't think it was a restaurant.
Maybe
at
not
all.
A restaurant at all. It said restaurant.
So Libby has like 3 RV places. It's a small town. One was full. I kept checking. One was full right in town. The other one was shut down currently because they had to close it for some health issues. And then there was this one. And now the people were super nice.
Yep, awesome.
But
people.
I was like, I don't want to stay at a bar. That's totally not my scene at all. I have my kids. I'm talking to this lady on the phone. I'm like, I got my kids. How far are you away from the bar? She's like, we're usually closed by like 10. Well, it wasn't an issue at all.
No.
It was the RV portion of it wasn't any worse than some of the other places we were at, but the people were very nice, and Granddad actually talked to a couple of the locals and got us some secret input on some things.
Some places, things to do.
I would say overall, Libby has been my favorite spot. Kootenai Falls and Suspension Bridge, and then we also went out to Ross Creek Cedars.
And a big part of that is just the fact that everybody could go, even the dogs, and they could be everywhere that we went.
Well, the Kootenai Falls and Suspension Bridge are really pretty, like not massive waterfalls, but like rapids. It was the right amount of hiking. You know, you had to hike a little ways to see them, although you could see it from an overlook if that is all you wanted to do. But then you had to hike a little bit, and you could sit, and there's giant mountain rocks, and that was just perfect. And everybody liked that, and it was a gorgeous day and very pretty. And
we did go into Libby.
There was something. No, yeah.
I was going to say something else about.
I was going to say something else about the falls. Oh, the stairs. You do have to walk down. These stairs, and it's like 3-4 flights of stairs.
It's 86 stairs. I counted.
You did?
I did.
But they're metal, and they're holes, and they're not spiky, but they're kind of
like
spiky.
Industrial grading,
so I don't
basically.
think that the dogs enjoyed walking on them at all, but it was freaky as heck walking down that thing and being that high in the air and being able to see all the way down. I think it was worse than walking across the suspension bridge, which was really cool. sturdier than I expected it to be. Really nice view when you were out there. Everybody went except for Zoomer.
Yeah, Zoomer refused to go. He didn't want to do it.
So we went, and Zoomer was like, no, thank you. And there was no reason whatsoever to push him, because you could hike more on the other side, but we actually just walked across and then walked back. But there were a couple dogs that went over there, and the people just went. I don't even think they were paying attention. Their dogs were shaking so bad. They were so scared. I mean, you're how many hundreds of feet up in the air over the water, and this bridge is moving back and forth. So Zoomer stayed with somebody and Granddad, and then we went over and back, and then everybody just switched. Yes. So first Ross Creek Cedars, and then we'll go back into the town of Libby.
All right. So Ross Creek Cedars was a little bit of a drive away.
About a half hour.
About a half an hour away from the campground. And basically it's a state forest area, national forest area. I guess it's national forest. With these big cedars. I mean, they were big. Some of them we were inside. Like, they were hollowed out, and we just crawled in underneath, and most of the family was inside just kind of hanging out. It was a nice walk.
It was pretty flat.
Good
a
trail.
Drive to get in there.
Yeah, quite a drive to get in there, for sure.
And not much wider than a one-lane road, and you're on a mountain. And so when I was okay in the expedition, we'd take 2 cars because we had all of us and my parents. But Jason and the dually, that was kind of nerve-wracking when he had to pass another car.
Let's be clear. I didn't have any problems. I knew I was getting over, and I could see that my tires were on the road. No big deal. But you guys got a picture, I guess, of our wheels. One of our wheels not being on the ground because we were so far over that the outside dually wheel just wasn't.
So fortunately, this was on the inside corner of the mountain, not the steep slope portion of it. But it was freaky as heck to follow him and drive. And you got your 2 front wheels for the truck, and then each back tire has 2. Well, this one, the inside one, was always on the ground, but sometimes you'd get over far enough, and that far outside wheel was not on the ground.
So anyway, we had a nice walk. There were cairns.
Yes, cairns. Rock cairns
out there. People would just build little towers with rocks, as saying, "Hey, I was here," or whatever. So that was kind of neat.
Emmett built one.
Yep. Yeah.
I think the kids really enjoyed it. Like, there were a few other people we crossed paths with, but really we had the place where we were every time just to ourselves.
Yeah.
And all these trees and lots of picture opportunities, and just to kind of be in there was super cool. Did you say they were 1,000-year-old?
I didn't say they were 1,000-year-old.
1,000-year-old cedar trees.
Big ones.
Then in Libby, there's not a lot necessarily in Libby, but they happen to be having a chainsaw carving competition that just fell on the time that we landed there, so that was pretty cool.
International championship.
There was what, like 20, 15
I thought there were
people?
like 30 carvers.
There weren't that many.
What was on the list?
There weren't that many. But it was just impressive how they took these giant logs and then turned them into, almost everybody created animals. Most people created bears. There were deer, there were fish, there were hummingbirds, there was a lion. Only one person didn't create an animal, and that was the only female carver, and she created like a lady in a
I picture
gown.
Pocahontas kind of almost, only it wasn't a native.
I had somebody say she looked like me.
Yeah, it looks just like you, baby. Beautiful.
But she actually won. She's the one that won. So that was a cool experience. Yeah, we made a few stops. The dollar store, at a gift shop.
Mountain Meadow.
Yes. Visitor center. There's not even a Walmart there, but there's a couple grocery stores. And I've actually been pretty pleased with most grocery stores I've been into. Some of them have been really, really expensive, but most have been clean, and most have had stuff that at least my family will eat. It's tricky sometimes to find stuff for me to eat. But they don't always look like much of a grocery store on the outside, and then you get inside and they're okay.
There were animals everywhere, all the time.
Deer.
Yeah, deer. Mostly
a
deer.
Moose.
And we did see a moose. Yep. We were driving Grandma and Granddad into their hotel. They were in the city of Libby for their hotel, and so it was me and Annabelle and Grandma and Granddad, and we were driving, and Bill was talking about how awful her night vision is, and she goes, I think I just saw a moose over there. So we turned around, and sure enough, she had seen a moose. So so that was kind of fun.
And then I think the only other thing in Libby is we got to go out to that secret.
Locals
It was.
only.
I don't think anybody else would ever found it. Swimming hole.
Yeah, it
Mountain
was
stream and swimming hole.
kind of on a logging road. There was a lot of logging going on. There was another person there, and I think he was
there's our
camping
puppies.
there. Our puppies are coming down. Yeah, they are.
I think
Look at them.
they're-
Flew upstairs. So anyway, John had gotten that information for us. Granddad had gotten that information for us when he talked to the people at the RV park bar. And so we drove out there, and we walked in and down a slope, and here's this beautiful stream and a big old pool. And if you've never had that experience, it's pretty cool. You walk down in there, and it looks really shallow because everything's super clear, but it was like at some points 6 feet deep easily. So we all got ready to go in. I was the first one ready to go in, so I jumped in, and Emmett jumped in right after me. And I knew it was going to be freezing cold, and I didn't realize how cold it was going to be. It was shockingly cold. Like, I came up like, oh, it like took your breath away. And Emmett came up, and he was freaking out because it was so cold, and he couldn't touch where he was, and I was able to kind of help him and get him back into shore. But it was freezing.
He was a little shocked.
He was a little shocked. But all in all, it was a really good experience down there too. We skipped rocks and jumped in a couple of times, and then we get out, and I was frozen for about a day and a half.
And now we're here in Coeur d'Alene. Do you want to talk about Coeur d'Alene now or next time?
I think next time. We're already at 36 minutes on this video.
All right
5
then.
o'clock. Beautiful
Coeur d'Alene
timing.
next time.
Coeur d'Alene next time. Bye.